Last week's Dark Side of the Ring was a brutal watch. Much of the information about the plane ride from hell was already common knowledge, except we've never heard from the innocent bystanders that had to deal with the rowdy bunch of wrestlers. I'm Ryan Joy, and I write minutesofbelltime.com, a website database tracking pro wrestling from around the world. On today's show, we're talking about the plane ride from hell and Dark Side of the Ring, and what we think the future might hold for the accused and for others. We also have headlines from the weekend. Karl is in the house, and this is the Daily Wrestling News Show for September 20th, 2021, where we sort through all the bullshit in wrestling news to find you the truth. All right, how did this happen again? All right, stop. Nobody heard anything. All right, Karl, welcome to the show.
I feel like me again. There we go. How's everything going, Ryan?
Everything's good. Well, Dark Side of the Ring is going to be it's going to be a tough topic to talk through. But we had a great weekend of wrestling. We had Victory Road, which I know you saw. I didn't have the opportunity to see, but we have some interesting news coming out of that. We had a good SmackDown. We got Rampage coming up this week. A whole bunch of news and stuff to talk about. So we'll get into Dark Side of the Ring, and then we'll pivot and we'll talk about all the fun stuff that's in the world. But I guess we do have to. I mean, this is the Daily Wrestling News Show, and we have to cover the good with the bad. And unfortunately, Dark Side of the Ring this past week was one of the bads. And up until this point, I think most of the Dark Side of the Ring episodes were things that everybody was kind of prepared mentally to see. And then when we got to this show, I think people were also prepared mentally, like, okay, we know this was a horrible plane ride. We know there was a big fight on it. We know about Doc Hendricks losing his ponytail. But what we didn't know about was things like H-bombs and sexual assault and all that stuff that just kind of take us all down a notch as wrestling fans. And there's no excusing all the stuff that happened. But I do kind of want to say that this happened a lot during the 70s, 80s, 90s with athletes from other sports and actors, celebrities, musicians, all various places. So while this is a bad story about wrestling, I just want to mention that I think that it's also stories like this can be found everywhere. So
sure.
That said, the show Dark Side of the Ring this past week centered around the story of WWE coming back from a UK tour that culminated with an Insurrection pay-per-view. So they were coming back from the UK to Connecticut. We heard stories and accounts from a flight attendant that was on the chartered plane that WWE used to come back that told of all the chaos and the assault and things like that. We also heard from Terry Runnels, who had some very interesting experiences and stories about her own ex-husband, and also with Brock Lesnar, even before they got on the plane and things like that. We heard a story of Ric Flair, who we have always known the stories about Ric Flair, right? He always talks about, I got on the plane, I'm wearing nothing but the robe. We've all heard those stories. For something about hearing that story from in this context, and he's the robe's wide open and he's doing the helicopter motion with his junk and stuff like that, and it seems all funny and stuff until you hear the story from the flight attendant's point of view, and then you hear her tell the story of Flair cornering her in the galley and then forcibly making her touch him. And then that kind of just brings you sort of next level in this story. And there was also a story about this same flight attendant being pulled in by Scott Hall where he licks her face. And the same flight attendant was trying to get the microphone back from Dustin Rhodes, who had commandeered it to sing a song to his ex-wife who was on the plane. And there was a underlying no sell it mentality that was in the wrestling business at that time. And when something happens the best thing to do is to not sell it. Otherwise, there'll be more of it. So that's what advice Terry was given when Brock Lesnar exposed himself to her in a locker room and when Dustin was singing on the plane. And so the flight attendant actually came back around and said, when she was being assaulted by Flair, it was Dustin who helped her get out of that situation, which she's like, so, like Dustin took the microphone and everything and wouldn't give it back. But she's like, I kind of take it easy on him, I guess, from a perspective of the fact that he got me out of that situation. So all in all, like we hear all these accounts that happened and they're horrible things. And you got a huge fight like up against the exit door between Curt Hennig and Brock Lesnar. Curt Hennig gets fired. Dustin Rhodes gets fined. Scott Hall gets fired. So there's lots of things that happen. JR is on here and he, giving his perspective, and it wasn't even a good look for JR even in this thing, because the interviewers asked JR, hey, why didn't Ric Flair get more punishment coming out of this thing?
Yeah.
And, they talk about him being a made man, and when you're made, you got to pass. That's basically all JR could say. Al, up to this point, anything you want to mention on the subject?
No, well, yes, the lesson here, I guess, there is a lesson here, and this is why the flight attendant came out and spoke on this, is the consequences that comes from the actions. Exactly what she said, and this is what rang out to me in the whole entire, at the very end. This is Ric Flair, Scott Hall, whoever. They woke up the next day, oh, that was a messed up flight, huh? And then they just went about their day. Meanwhile, they emotionally scarred somebody for the rest of their lives to the point where it's I've never been scarred like that. I can't even put into words. I can't understand what that poor flight attendant is going through still to this day, almost 20 years later. So that was 2003, right? So 18 years later. And it's not just with it's just everything. You're exactly right. This happens. This is real life. This is not pro wrestling. This could have happened with even just a random plane of people. Doesn't have to be athletes or musicians or whatever. There's just be a random frat house of just guys. And again, it's just the consequence of their actions. And it's the same. It almost gets down to the point where you bully a kid in school. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, you think you're funny, it thinks it's a joke, and you go about your day. Meanwhile, the kid that's being bullied is just mentally just gone, like they're traumatized, horrified, however you want to put it. So it's you don't understand the consequences of your actions, and I think that's the main point on this, and that's why the flight attendant wanted to speak out on it. Is again, this is me too.
Yeah.
Yes, she was not to the fullest extent, but it's still enough to scar. So it's a horrible thing. I honestly wish, I know you wanted to talk about it on the show. I wanted to know more about the plane ride from hell because, okay, yeah, Curt Hennig's a prankster. He had gone to a wrestling match with Brock Lesnar. Okay. It could be worse things. Okay, Dustin Rhodes was drunk singing to his ex-wife. Okay. I drunk texted ex-girlfriends too. Like this is, and that's all fine. Cutting Michael Hayes' hair because X-Pac wasn't getting pushed the right way. That's fine. Then there's Flair, and then Lesnar got roped into it. I mean, see, that was, I don't want to say unnecessary, but like, oh my god, like, even Brock's brought in on this.
Yep.
And it's horrible. I really wish I didn't see that, and I wish stuff like this just didn't happen. I know the world's not perfect, and all this stuff's going to happen, and it's horrible. I mean, we really have to do better as human beings to stop scarring each other. It's not funny.
Right.
Funny at the time, and you think it's funny. It's funny, picking on the kid for having a lisp when he's in you're in 5th grade or whatever. He has braces and whatnot, but it's life changing.
Yep. Yeah, you are echoing, I think, the comments of Rob Van Dam on the show. They had several people on here that were on the plane. They had Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, who we'll get into in a second, and they had Justin Credible, Jim Ross, and several people that were on the plane. The thing Rob Van Dam said at the end, which was, it was kind of jarring at the time, but I think it's echoing kind of what you're saying. Is like, man, sometimes you just don't want to know this stuff about these people.
No.
Like it does kind of, you don't want to meet your heroes. You don't want to get too close to them. You don't want to know what they're really like, because boy, will it kind of scars you a little bit, right? Like, it's going to be hard to look at Ric Flair, doing one of his Ric Flair promos talking about drinking and stuff like that again without thinking back to this. So all of us lose a little innocence in this, in some ways. I do want to get into the Tommy Dreamer aspect of this because, Tommy Dreamer made some comments on here that have gotten him in a lot of trouble professionally since. So Tommy said, I should say, so Tommy was talking about a lot about what Ric Flair was doing on here, and he said his comments were in the vein of they were carelessly said, they were clumsily said, and they were victim shaming in a lot of ways. But here's what he said, and then we can get into kind of what things have transpired. But Dreamer said, Flair is not going to impose himself by force any sexual stuff onto anybody. He's just flaunting, silent, and profiling, like the Ric Flair stuff, where everybody's going to laugh about it. Obviously, somebody took offense to it. And then talking about the flight attendant's experience in the galley, it's a joke, he later added. It's a gag. Today, 1,000% inappropriate. I've hung out with Ric Flair and never seen him force his will against anybody. Regarding the settlement, because there was a lawsuit that came out of this, Dreamer said, if that's how she felt, maybe she should have not taken any payout and went to the fullest extent of the law to put this heinous person in jail, my opinion. So Dreamer made all these comments, and they're careless, they're clumsily, he probably had some point in here that he was trying to make, and it was not well made. So what Impact said, they came out, they suspended Tommy Dreamer. He said, we're aware of Mr. Laughlin, that's Tommy's, comments on Dark Side of the Ring. The views expressed by him in the interview are completely unacceptable. We can confirm Mr. Laughlin was suspended this morning with immediate effect pending further action. Now, since then, Tommy Dreamer came on to, has issued an apology, a written apology. He said, regarding my comments on Dark Side of the Ring, it was never my intention to offend, hurt, or victim shame anyone. I understand my comments were insensitive and could trigger emotions in someone's own personal past. I do not condone sexual misconduct of any kind. I apologize to anyone I offended. From the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry. So now we all have to look at Tommy Dreamer, and we have to kind of make up our own minds. So I want to give my thoughts on what I think about the Tommy Dreamer situation, and we can go from there where we need to. First, I think Impact did the right thing. I think given imperfect information and the way that Dreamer came across on the show, and his delivery and everything, I think they did the right thing. They said they suspended him pending further action. The wrestling business has just come such a long way from the way from its portrayal of women on television today and its treatment of women overall. We've lived through Me Too. We've lived through speaking out. Women's wrestling is as strong as ever today. But if I'm Gail Kim and I'm Scott D'Amore, I don't want someone working in creative or as an active talent that might make the Knockouts division uncomfortable, that they have to work with this person, or that they can't respect, right? You don't want somebody on the creative team that they can't respect. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's my kind of like first part. The second part, though, is that I don't think Dreamer should be punished forever. He said some stuff, and like I mentioned before, they were clumsy, they're careless, they're insensitive. I don't know how much of the flight attendant's interview Dreamer saw when he made those comments. And if he had saw that stuff and heard that stuff from her, would that have changed what he said? I don't know if he had that context. I do also want to say he did not commit sexual assault. He said some stupid stuff. He may be victim shamed, but he didn't commit sexual assault, and I don't think he should be punished in the same way that somebody who committed sexual assault would. So I don't think he should be going to jail. I don't think he should be canceled forever.
No.
He issued an apology. I do think finally that given Dreamer's apology, that Impact and Busted Open for that matter, because he's not hosting on Busted Open at the moment, I think that they should work with Dreamer now on a path back. I don't think he should just walk back in the door, but there should be a path forward for redemption. I think that they could lay out, and that might include him apologizing to the Impact talent, because you know what? All those women that are working in wrestling, they've persevered through the whole hierarchy of the wrestling business where women's wrestling was at the bottom and stuff. They have a really enormous knockouts division that's doing very, very well. And I think he needs to be upfront with them and have a conversation with them. And if there's a path back for him, then I think Impact should be okay with taking it.
Yeah. Now the thing, all right, with Tommy, and I hope I say this right. Tommy has done so much for this industry in a positive light. Tommy is a great ambassador for professional wrestling. From what I can see throughout the years, Tommy Dreamer is genuinely an extremely nice guy, an extremely selfless guy, wants to help, a very caring individual. I think that's where Tommy got in trouble, because I feel like that's what Tommy was trying to do. Tommy was just trying to take some of the heat off Ric Flair.
Yeah.
As a friend and as somebody and you look up to. I'm sure Flair, 20 years, Tommy Sr., Tommy probably looked up to, he's an idol. Junior probably doesn't want to hear this about Flair either. That's my hero. That's the guy that I grew up watching that made me become a wrestler. And what Tommy did in defending Ric Flair was exactly shaming what happened. Yeah. And that's the problem. So I feel like Tommy, he apologized with the written, and I'm sure, like, hearing who I perceive Tommy Dreamer to be, it was 100% genuine and sincere.
Yep.
I think he shouldn't get a patches. He should get suspended, and he will serve his time. Maybe one more when he gets back. Maybe even, I don't know if you want to do this on TV. Definitely, I think you should do it on Busted Open. I'm sure Bully would give him the time to do it. I'm going to give Tommy a pass on this one. I think he knows he's wrong. What he said was wrong, and he apologized for it. I believe he is sincere. I would like to see Tommy Dreamer back on TV again.
Yeah. I agree with you. I do think he's sincere. I think that there should be a path for him for redemption. And if that means there's a public thing he has to do, or probably more importantly, in my mind, a private thing that he needs to do within, or an internal thing that he needs to do within the company to, properly express where he's at. There's people that have said a lot worse things that are still on television every week.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody, and like I said, just thinking or just knowing what Tommy has done, I'm sure even the Knockouts division, they will forgive him. Right. Tommy, we know you're not a sexual predator. We know you're an idiot. You said the completely wrong thing, and that was bad. We forgive you for trying to stick up for Flair, even though Flair was wrong. It's.
Yeah, and again, I want to be clear. I'm not defending Dreamer in any way. I am, and I don't think Al, you are either, in the extent that, like, what I'm saying is, what we're saying is, what he said was not right. It was completely wrong, but I think that there's path forward. And
but it wasn't a malicious wrong,
right?
Like I said, he wasn't trying to. Oh my God, this woman's a liar. This woman's this, that, and the other things. This is, all she wants to do is get Ric Flair's money. No, he's like, all right. He's like, okay, listen, yes, it happened. It was, he used the word joke. It's not a joke.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It was a bully. What Ric Flair did was a bully tactic. And I just want to, and this will be the last thing I said. It was a bully tactic. And it's up there to the point where, Ric Flair did it in person, but this is the same stuff that's been happening over the internet with the cyberbullying and all that stuff. And we just lost Daphne. Like, this is probably where this is, getting most. We just lost Daphne. We lost that other Japanese superstar a year ago.
Hana Kimura.
With the cyberbullying. Like, this is no different.
Yeah.
Whether it's cyberbullying and you're typing, you are scarring. You could potentially be scarring someone to the point where they want to take their own life.
Yeah. Well said. The one thing I do want to also point out is that, and I've heard accounts over the weekend after this had aired, that there is some inaccuracy. Now, I'm not saying that there is inaccuracy at the highest level, that this stuff didn't happen, because you know what, I'm sure that it happened, but there are some inaccuracies about the whole thing about, like Vince and Linda being on the flight. Jonathan Coachman, advised Dave Meltzer when he originally wrote the story that, in fact, they were not on the flight. So there were some thoughts that a lot of, this was like almost 20 years ago, like Al mentioned, it was 18 years ago. And there were many flights around that time with things that happened. So the thought is that some of this stuff might have been conflated all into one flight, as opposed to, the fact that there were many. But probably the majority of the stuff happened on the one flight, but there were some inaccuracies in that way in the documentary, or what I at least perceive to be inaccurate based on what was written at the time and understood at the time. So.
Yeah, and just the last thing, I just hope this H-bombing stuff, that's got to stop too. Like this whole roofie thing, like they're doing it to themselves. They already even, somebody admitted, I forget who said it on the show. They do it to themselves, their peers, because it's funny to watch them incoherent and whatever.
Right.
And they said, and Rob Van Dam, I think he even said, or something on Twitter, it's like, they did it to women too.
Yeah.
Dropping H-bombs on women. That's it. You don't leave your drink unattended. It's just, it's a horrible world. Like when people are doing that to each other. And I think that's, I said Scott Hall. And it probably, I've mixed a ton of drinks with pills before, and I've never been like, Scott Hall got H-bombed too, and it cost him his job because he looked like a moron in a wheelchair being, carted off. I'm sure with the flight attendant too, but Scott Hall, he got bombed too. He got set up.
He did, but there's no denying the problems that he had before.
No, exactly. He buried himself with that, but then it's just like, all right,
This was just maybe the excuse to
let it
go. Okay, that said, we are going to change the tone. We're going to have a fun time the last 8 or 10 minutes of the show. We're going to talk about some good stuff that's happened. We're going to talk about option CL, but we're going to wait until we get back from commercial. So everybody stick with us. When we come back, it's going to be all smiles from here. So stick with us, and we'll be right back. If you love the Daily Wrestling News Show, then I want to tell you how you can support us. First, check out bystanders.com. You can get a variety of shirts for just $20, and all of them come in the super soft style, and the price you see includes all sizes and shipping. Get 10% off 2 or more shirts with the promo code SHIRTS10. Go to bodyslamclothes.com right now to check it out. And join Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca on Friday nights for the Primetime Rundown. They take you through the world of sports, and the show kicks off each Friday at 7 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And each Tuesday, Al Karl hosts the Essential Wrestling Podcast alongside John Smith, myself, John DeConnie, and Gary Mahaffey. It's another week of updates and highlights in the world of wrestling. Here are our analysis on who we think is going to win the week's matches. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. Pro Wrestling Pick'em. It's a place where you can join or host a Pick'em League to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account and join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com so you can play against your friends or play against the universe. And the Body Slam Brigade newsletter, currently going out to over 4,200 people each Friday. It consolidates all the top stories in professional wrestling into a quick-to-read email written by me for you for free. Sign up now at BodySlamBrigade.com. And of course, this show, the Daily Wrestling News Show. We're here every day, Monday through Thursday, and occasionally on Friday. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or watch us live on Facebook and YouTube at 10 a.m. This is the Daily Wrestling News Show, and we thank you for your support. And we are back in the headlines portion of the show. And Al Karl, if I want to attend or be on the Essential Wrestling Podcast, do I have to give up the Daily Wrestling News Show? because that's what Josh Alexander has to do with the X Division title.
I appreciate you thinking you're the X title and I'm the world champion. I appreciate that right there. But yeah, so way back when Option C, and shout out to John DeConnie, he called this last Tuesday, going into whatever. He's like, I think Alexander's gonna be doing Option C. I'm like, Option C hasn't been done in years. Like, it can't still be a thing. And lo and behold, it has. It's the first time since 2018. So it's been 3 years since Option C was invoked, and this started way back when in 2012. An exchange between then X Division champion Austin Aries, who was running over everybody. He wants the bigger belt, wants this, and then I guess Hulk Hogan was running TNA back then. He's like, okay, well, if you want to relinquish your X title, I'll give you a world title match. And Aries agreed to it on one condition. And that's how Josh Alexander was able to do it on Saturday night. And the one condition was, I will do this, yes, but this has to be made available for any X Division champion going forward. And that's where Josh Alexander comes in. He ran roughshod. He beat the greatest X Division champion of all time, albeit probably 5 years past Sabre, prime of X Division. Whatever, it's still fine. And he's going to invoke Option C, and he's going to challenge Christian Cage. Bound for Glory, that poor bastard.
Bound for Glory. So it's our first Bound for Glory match. Al, we're going to start stacking up Bound for Glory because that's the next show, sort of. We do have Knockouts, Knockdown, and no disrespect to that because that's going to be a fun show. But Bound for Glory is the next big Impact show, and it's their biggest show of the year. And because it's their biggest show of the year, you're decided to do something special.
I am. I'm going to invoke Option Al, I guess. The specials that we always do for the WWE, the Big Four. We always have the WrestleMania special, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, the Saturday before the pay-per-view. We're going to do it for Bound for Glory, Brian. I want to give them their just due. Bound for Glory is Impact's biggest show of the year, and it has been for a very long time. It is their version of WrestleMania. They are actually getting out of Skyway Studios for this. They're going to Vegas. They're ripping off WWE. They're going to take over Vegas.
The Allegiant Center.
We're going to get a 10 p.m. start time from what I heard, too. They're actually going to go local time with that one. So we got to stay up late on the East Coast to watch that. But, long story short, we're talking about me and you and John DeConnie. We're in talks about doing one of, a Bound for Glory special with the original. And that show, I just stumbled upon watching it live, and I was just jaw-dropped by it. And it just, ever since then, it's just been their main show, and I want to give it their just due. This is I believe the 17th or 18th anniversary of it, so it's been around quite some time. Probably the second, probably the longest, running annual show outside WWE. Maybe Wrestle Kingdom's only at 14 or 15, right? I mean, it's even longer than Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
But the most important thing,
Impact themselves might have some longer running shows, but.
Yeah, well, Victory Road, actually, that was Victory Road was their first. Was their first ever pay. But I don't know if they've done Victory Road every year. I remember them doing Victory Road 2 years ago, whatever. But it's it's irrelevant. But it's their biggest show, and we want to give it their just due. I'm already making the stats, making the graphics. We're gonna treat this special for you guys, and all I ask in return is if they're gonna go to Vegas, you're gonna put Johnny Swinger and Swinger's Palace in Las Vegas. In between every match, I want a Swingers update, Swingers Palace update. Just watching the Swing Daddy just trashing like the Bellagio and all the other, the fans. Hey, my place is better. They could do so much with that. I'm looking forward to Johnny Swinger in Vegas.
Man, there's no chance they haven't thought of that, right? That's got to be front of mind, right?
Exactly. To be the first thing they thought of. They just, hey, Johnny.
Well, some other news that from Impact. Not necessarily Bound for Glory, but there's a Bound for Glory tie-in, right? And Al probably will explain it when I say this. But Rhino signed a new deal with Impact, and I guess that's great. Keeping their talent down. Rhino is, man. I saw him the last Thursday episode of Impact. I don't remember who he was standing next to, but I was like, oh my god, Rhino's way bigger than I give him credit for.
Rhino's a big boy. He's a Rhino. In fact, we got the name Rhino. He's not a hairdresser on his day off.
But Rhino was involved with the first Bound for Glory, which is
he was the main story of it, and it wasn't supposed to happen. Probably I like Kevin Nash, but probably one of the best things that ever happened was Kevin Nash missing that show and having that gauntlet to challenge Jeff Jarrett. It was supposed to be Jeff Jarrett and Kevin Nash for the TNA NWA Championship. Nash came down with something. I forget the story. On storyline, I believe he got jumped by, I think Jarrett was running around with Team Canada and America's Most Wanted at the time. So I don't know if they jumped him. I know they jumped Team 3D, the infamous 3D funeral, which was hysterical. And Rhino ended up just running. If you are a Rhino fan, the first Bound for Glory is the show for you. Rhino just absolutely just soars. And like I said, even last year he became the all-time winningest competitor at Bound for Glory when he won the Coyer Shot Gauntlet. He ended up cashing that in for the tag championships with Violent by Design. But yeah, Rhino signed a new deal. He was just baptized in the holy waters of change, rebaptized.
He was.
And hopefully we have now an even more evil Rhino, and he can continue his winning ways at Bound for Glory. I'm excited for Rhino.
I don't feel like the storyline's going down the way that Rhino's going to be with Violent by Design for too much longer.
You never know. You don't know.
In fact, they did a beatdown on him on Thursday.
I missed Thursday.
You gotta catch.
It was one of those things. Football was like I can watch. I don't even know what's gonna happen. I'll watch Saturday. I just watch Victory Road.
Yeah, Diener took a pin.
Set up for Victory Road.
Diener took a pin in the match. It was a tag match, Rhino and Diener. And Diener took the pin, and then Rhino and Eric Young got into it, and then everybody beat him up. So
wow, okay. Well,
so hopefully. And
it's been a year.
Under good authority that it's happening. Heath is probably on his way back.
As I say, it's been a year.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be my surprise pick for if they do the Coyer Shot Gauntlet again. Because I believe Heath was supposed to win it last year. And
boy, did that injury take the steam out of Heath. Poor guy.
It did. It's been a year. It's time to bring Heath back. And, it's time to get the band back together. Let's get the saltines out with the cheese whiz. Let's get those back, too. That was great.
All right, for this next minor segment within the headline section, we'll call this the Gary Mahaffey Memorial segment since I haven't seen him in a long time. I'm not sure he's alive still. We'll see.
No, he's alive. Yeah.
NXT UK Championship #1 contenders match this week. Nathan Frazier versus A-Kid versus Rampage Brown. This came out of Thursday's NXT UK show. So, Al, what I was bringing up to you in pre-production, now that Walter is he hasn't vacated the title, but now that Walter has lost the title to Dragunov,
yep,
these smaller guys are much more compelling. Nathan Frazier and A-Kid are much more realistic opponents or believable opponents for Ilya Dragunov than they were for Walter. So, but Rampage Brown was the last man standing. So I don't know if they're believable against Rampage Brown, much less.
Yeah, Rampage Brown's a tough customer. But here's the fun part, Ryan. This match is huge because this sets up who the first challenger will be.
Victor.
Now, I think the average runtime of an NXT UK Championship reign is somewhere near 700 days. All right, so I mean, Dragunov has a long time to hit the average here. But the fun thing is, and this is what I'm going to throw out there, and especially when I talk about it with Gary, I'll get your opinion on it first. Dragunov could be one and done here and not hurt him. He is the guy that beat Walter. He by no means needs a 700-day reign as NXT UK champion to solidify himself. He did that in one match when he beat Walter. He's fine, done. Yeah. Dragunov is now forever the guy that ended the longest reign in the modern era. No one is going to remember his title reign unless he goes on and beats it. And then that's pretty much it. But Dragunov is not bulletproof right now. I can totally see them just giving, okay, we'll just give it to Rampage Brown. We'll give it to Nathan Frazier, which would be awesome. I spy Jersey guy. I think I don't think they would do it to him, but it's definitely in conversation because he doesn't need a long title reign here to be always remembered.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I think if he gets one title reign in, title defense in, he'll tie Tyler Bate, right? Like that. I think Tyler Bate had one.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I think he did. But yeah, no, you're right. I think you're absolutely right. That victory over Walter is going to be way bigger than any match he has for a long time.
Yeah,
unless
That's it.
he gets promoted, so to speak.
He's going to go, and he's the guy that beat Walter. He said he can 700-day champion. No, he's the guy that beat Walter. That's it. This title reign is completely irrelevant in my opinion with him. I hope he has a good one, and I know it's something that means a lot to him, and he's going to go all out like he did getting it. But if he loses, I'm going to be like, who cares? He's the guy that beat Walter.
Right. Yeah.
Who cares?
I can't disagree. And then the other match that's this week, Wolfgang versus Teoman in the Heritage Cup semifinals. So the winner gets to fight Noam Dar. So it's almost, again, you were talking about things that are irrelevant. This match, Noam Dar all the way in this, right?
I'm gonna say I think Wolfie will probably get Thursday, and that's gonna set up a great match. I don't know. It's the feud between Gallus and Mustache Mountain is very storied. It's a Wolfie versus Tyler Bate is not unheard of. Would not surprise me. But no, I never bet against my guys. Look at my Impact record this past weekend. I never bet against my guys. I'm not going against Noam Dar. He's going to have this. He's going to beat Tyler Bate. That's just me, though.
I mean, you're putting Noam Dar and Rohit Raju on the same playing field. So a dream match for you, I guess.
That would be. Well, that actually, he's got to take down Sting first. But then, yeah, I'm going to put him up in a British rounds match against Noam Dar, of course.
All right. Well, the hits keep coming with Dark Side of the Ring because they've got Chris Kanyon episode this week, and we'll have to see how this one goes. This one might be also rough on us. So.
Shout out to Canyon. He's a Jersey guy. I love Canyon. When WCW, even after Vince bought it, he was running around with Paige. They were tag team champions. He was given the United States Championship for being the Alliance MVP in the Invasion pay-per-view. In a BS 6-man tag match that meant nothing on the show. He's the one that got the win. He might not even gotten the win. I don't even remember that, but it's funny. Canyon, who better? And Brian Cage is heavily influenced. He was trained by Chris Kanyon, and that is a tribute. I will never. There goes Brian Cage ripping off Chris Kanyon. No, it is a tribute. Chris Kanyon was a huge influence on Brian Cage's career, and as a tribute, Brian Cage. That's why he does the who better. He does it for Kanyon. Kanyon lives on.
All right, another television note. NBC's Young Rock is apparently going to start filming their second season in Australia this November and December, PW Insider reported. So I didn't actually make it all the way through season 1 of Young Rock, but it's pretty fun. It's in the alternative universe where Dwayne Johnson is running for president. It's good stuff.
Yeah, Rock or anything with Rocky, just gonna it's money.
Yep. So another story that I know is near and dear to your heart. Liv Morgan getting a pay-per-view match at Extreme Rules against Carmella. I haven't heard that the title of most beautiful girl in all of WWE is on a poll or anything, but there's going to be some sort of stipulation, presuming that she gets through her singles match with Zelina Vega on SmackDown. Liv has got 2 matches already set up. Naomi can't get one, so I don't know what's going on with her, but
yeah, Naomi got fined for insubordination on Friday. I thought that was a little.
I think that's a bloodline. I think they're going to put her in the bloodline. I do.
You have to. You have to. I would think so. But Liv, we're taking SmackDown by storm. Let's go. We'll get that draft status up. Hopefully she'll be a high draft pick, and then whatever show she lands up on at the end of the month, we'll start getting some title matches. Give Liv a chance here. Jersey girls, let's go.
Absolutely. So we have Extreme Rules. I think that's coming up this weekend, right, Al?
It is. Yeah, we had a big week. We got a lot of picks to go over tomorrow on the Essential Wrestling Podcast. We got Dynamite Grand Slam. We have Rampage Grand Slam. So that's 11 matches right there. Plus there's 6 booked already for Extreme Rules. Not to mention what's going to happen tonight. But the thing is, I think maybe tonight and Friday, we're going to start trying to find out what some of these stipulations are because we have not one eye for an eye match scheduled right now, and it's bothering me.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for that, but I'll take some other stipulations. But hey, props to Malachi Black for just running with that, by the way. He wasn't involved in the eye for an eye match, but he got he had it happen on a random Performance Center episode of Raw where he got his eye jammed into the corner steps, and he's running with it.
If the war is finally going to happen, if there is eventually going to be a war, some type of crossover promotion pay-per-view between AEW and Impact. Now the rumors are Buddy's going to be going with Impact. Go it. Let's do it. He's still selling the Buddy Murphy, the Buddy Murphy eye injury. It's absolutely incredible.
It is incredible.
I'm sure Ray's face looks like that too. I mean, you can't see under the
mask.
We
don't see it. We don't see it.
Ray's face has to look like that.
Yeah, but we don't see it. So, where was I? I was just listening to something where they were talking about Rey Mysterio making it all the way to Gorilla and then forgetting he didn't have his mask on. He had to run back. Oh, the All In pay-per-view. The original one that Cody and the Bucks produced in Chicago before AEW was even a thing. It has famously went long, and because of it, there was a big 6-man tag match at the end featuring Rey Mysterio. Well, he made it all the way to Gorilla, realized he didn't have his mask on, and had to run back. A show that was already running long, up against the clock, got so his match got shortened even by more in regards to that. So, just a funny anecdote.
It's a fun little tidbit. I like that. It's good.
Yeah. Taz, I think, okay, so just credit where credit's due. I believe I got that from Fightful. I think that's where I read that. Taz applied to trademark "Beat Me If You Can, Survive If I Let You." He applied for that in real life, which is going to be fun when next time CM Punk tries to use that on him.
Exactly. Punk is officially going to be ripping off Taz, and Taz can get some money for it. So.
That's right. Okay, so on to Monday Night Raw for tonight. We actually have quite a lot advertised, which is, hey, props to WWE. I think that is something they should have always done. Now, make sure you give us these matches.
Well, there's advertising. I know that's an ass chat for you when they change matches, or the card subject to change. I know is a killer for you, but he could be ripping that script up as we speak right now, and we just get something completely other than I think the New Day and the Bloodline will happen, but who knows about the rest.
Right. So MVP suffered a rib last week at the hands of Randy Orton's RKO. So I don't know if that means we will see him on the show or we won't see him on the show. But interestingly, you have the New Day versus Roman and the Usos, Bloodline, like you just mentioned. Bobby Lashley is going to be obviously circling the ring, right? The whole New Day, that's just, those are his victims. He likes to put them down, except for Big E. He's going to have revenge on Big E on his mind.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to your conversation that you had on Thursday on this show with John DeConnie. You spotted MVP with Shelton Benjamin. You had a whole segment on the Hurt Business.
Yep.
And there's still the rumor going around. Who knows if it's true or not that they wanted Adam Cole to be Keith Lee mouthpiece, but I don't know. That's gone obviously. So Keith Lee. Yeah. Is this where we insert Keith Lee into the Hurt Business? Because they're still owed a tag team championship match, and if MVP's hurt,
right, that's a big match.
That is a big match, and that's
and I love
fun for Extreme Rules. That would be a nice, Bobby Lashley and a partner his choosing versus RK Bro at Extreme Rules.
I'm a big fan of Keith Lee as is, but I think there's something interesting about Keith Lee heel that I haven't seen that I think would be good.
Yeah, I get it. I understand it. I don't think you should keep Keith Lee as is because Keith Lee as is not on TV. We're not seeing him.
Well, correct. Yes. Whatever you need to do to get him on TV and get him in a good position.
Yes. Yeah. So Keith Lee, let's change it up.
And it's all going to be as soon as the pairing happens, it's all going to be about the destruction because Keith Lee and Bobby Lashley, as big and tough as they are, they're not the powers of pain. So they're
not the powers of pain. Very few teams are. So that's they're on a level of their own. Powers of pain.
Still competing. Natalya and Tamina are going to defend the tag titles against Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash. I think this is the end. I think it's the end.
Yes, it has to be. They're the worst champions of all time. We've discussed this on numerous occasions. They can't win if their life dependent on it. Thank God all those matches were either singles matches or non-title matches. But speaking of, Shotzi and Tegan owned them about 2-3 months ago and still has not received their tag title. Why are Nikki and Rhea doing?
Well, because Shotzi and Tegan aren't on TV either, I guess.
They're in the back riding around on the tank. Let's go. Let's fire that missile. Let Sonya get her attention, just like Naomi tried to do. You take the fine for insubordination, but you get your tag title shot. So let's go here.
Never has there been a tag team with fewer wins. They just happened to. They won one match a few months ago. It just happened to be for the tag titles.
Yeah, well, they won at WrestleMania too. I mean, that's, but I don't think they've won since. Like that was a big match. I will give them that was a big win at WrestleMania. They didn't know what their opponents were going to be until 24 hours prior, and they got it done. So good for them, but they just haven't won since. So that's. Yeah.
Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler is on Raw tonight. Now this one just reeks of setting up a pay-per-view match with the same people.
Yeah, it does, but that would be, I don't say unprecedented. It wouldn't be unprecedented for an event not named WrestleMania, but that would be 4 women's matches at Extreme Rules. So, I don't know. This just reeks of no contest. Reeks of no contest, or Shayna Baszler taking the roll up. I would love to actually have that stat, and I would want to say Shayna Baszler is probably fell victim most to the roll up in her career.
Travis had it last week on the show, and I don't know if he was just speaking in hyperbole, but he said what it was like 18 times or something this year. So.
Yeah, I would believe that. It does sound that does sound hyperbolic. Hey, how about that word? But it wouldn't shock me. She just seems like she always is just rolled up, which is.
Sheamus versus Jeff Hardy tonight. Now, if Jeff Hardy wins, he's in the U.S. title match at Extreme Rules. I think this would be more compelling if it was Karrion Kross. But Jeff Hardy's got to do something, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, people complain that Jeff was in the 24/7 crowd. So here you see, you complain when Jeff Hardy beats Karrion Kross. So like, okay, these people don't care about Jeff Hardy. Let's put him in the 20. Then you complain that he's not being used right. So he beats Karrion Kross. It's wrong. He's in the 24/7. That's wrong. Somebody's got to make up their mind here as far as fans go. Like, Jeff Hardy's fine. I know Jeff Hardy's not the best, background storyteller. If you're not talking about his alcoholism, and he doesn't have a story. But you can do. Yeah,
I'll give you that with
the match. Really. Why not? Jeff Hardy's on his show. He's a great wrestler. I still enjoy watching Jeff Hardy wrestle, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, I'll give it to you in the sense that you're right. The fans need to make up their mind, but so does WWE need to make up.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. It's almost like, okay, well, would you listen to the fans? It's Jeff. You're trying to do right by Jeff. It's almost like, okay, fans, what do you want to do? What do you want us to do with Jeff? We'll give you control of him. Oh, he can't be beating Karrion. That's terrible. Okay. Oh, we can't beat the 24/7. Okay, well, what the hell do you want us to do then?
Alexa Bliss welcomes Charlotte to the playground. There will be a New Day celebration as Big E is the WWE champion. And
bold prediction here that a tag team match will break out of that playground segment between Alexa Bliss and Lily versus Charlotte and Charlie.
It's possible. It's possible. Who goes over, to Lily or Charlie?
I think Lily goes over in the tag match, but Charlie probably goes over at the pay-per-view.
Yeah. So it's almost irrelevant who wins between Natalya, Tamina, and Rhea Nikki Ash because.
But you never know. Maybe Lily and Charlie, it could be a whole big swerve with those two. Yeah, and they go after the winner of the tag title.
Push over Kenny Omega. Lily is the next belt collector. So. All right. With that said, and the ratings of this show drop.
Yeah, wow, you went long today. That's that plane ride.
All right. Al, anything else in the world of wrestling we need to cover down on? We've got the EWP tomorrow to pick all those matches you talked about. Well,
yeah. The only thing I got to tell you is that hockey schedule came out on TNT.
Right.
That hockey schedule came out. I don't think this is a good thing for AEW. I'm kind of laughing a little bit internally because everyone said the war ended because NXT moved. No, they were forced because of hockey. But now hockey got picked up on TNT. So now we're going to have a lot of Saturday Night Dynamites coming up. There's going to be a lot of 10 o'clock on Wednesday Dynamites coming up. There is going to be so much inconsistency with that show. You got to move it to TBS.
Yeah, no, it's not good when it moves to Saturday. It's not good for the ratings. It usually hurts. So,
but the thing, yes. But I'm saying, like, okay, it's Saturday this weekend. We're going to have to update people every Tuesday on our show and on your show. Oh, yeah, guys, friendly reminder, Dynamite's on Saturday this week. Oh, yeah, friendly reminder, Dynamite's at 10 o'clock after the hockey game, pending if that game goes into overtime. There's just going to be a lot of inconsistency, and fans are going to be upset by it, but they get to watch some great hockey. So I guess it's a win-win situation.
I guess so. Well, We shall see. We shall see what happens. I will actually be very interested to know what the hockey ratings are, to be honest. Whether or not it's an
I
appropriate.
guarantee you they'll skyrocket if they see my ice. I don't think they have any Wednesday. I don't think I'm the problem here. I don't think UBS has any Wednesday games, so I don't think I'm the issue.
All right. Well, for Al, I'm Ryan, and we will see you next time, which is tomorrow.